Hello and welcome back to another Red Jacks on podcast with me, Frazer.
Me, Charlie.
Me, Rick.
And me, Serhan. Oh, yeah. Yay.
And this week we're talking about something that's on the forefront of news and technology everywhere, and that's artificial intelligence, AI.
What are you saying, Frazer?
We've replaced Serhan with an AI.
Oh, thank God. About time.
Finally. We've been talking about this for years.
Don't be sorry. Don't be silly. I am friend, not foe.
So it's all over the news these days. It's been more widespread. We have access to it. You know, we've got simple sort of language machines basically at the moment that we can play around with. We've got things we can make videos and images with, and even music. And there's mixed reactions. You know, people are obviously having fun playing with these things, and there are people who are worried about how far it's going to go and how quickly. So how do you guys feel at the moment about the current AI explosion?
I personally like it. I'm always for evolution, and I feel like AI is just something we were always going to do anyway. And the fact that we can like generate whole movies now essentially with just AI, and you can do what would have taken years in a couple of weeks, and I think that's kind of cool. I think it is scary because people can rip each other off and stuff, and you know, I'm sure we'll get into that a bit more. But yeah, I'm on board with it. I'm kind of like rather ride the train than fight it. You know what I mean? I just think there needs to be some maybe protocols that need to be put in place to stop it happening everywhere, like especially with like plagiarism. But I'm on board. I like it. It's fun. It's
I mean, kind of the same. I think it's going to be weird for sure. It's going to be an adjustment when it does actually kick off. But we're slowly getting there. I'm kind of hyped for it because it can be an insane tool that we can use for so much good. But then at the same time, you know, there's always going to be people that are going to abuse it, and you're going to get a lot of idiots using it for all the fucked up wrong reasons. But it's just another thing, right? And eventually we'll come across those bridges when we get to them. But I think overall it could be a very, very big step in a good way for humanity. So I think I'm hyped for it, but I'm just apprehensive about the way it's going to be used and introduced and who's going to be controlling it and everything. I think for the most part I feel pretty good about it. Pretty good.
Okay. I think like I've been reading up into it. I downloaded a couple of AI apps and touched on it and all that stuff. And I think this is an opinion that I will explore more in the podcast as we talk deeper into it. But it's kind of to reflect off Rikesh and Charlie's point, but a terminology that Charlie used that I think I've been really thinking about. And I read a lot of philosophy books, a lot of psychology books, obviously just personal favorite stuff and professional development. And I don't see as evolution, I see as a development. And I think because the reason I say it like that is I see evolution as something internal. I see everything external to that as a development of our species, a progression of it, if that makes sense. Whereas evolution is something more biological, physiological, emotional, and spiritual. It's an internal factor. Not that it changes anything. I'm just reframing my words because that's how I'm going to portray it. I see as, and I've had this conversation, I can't remember who I had it with, years ago with someone, and we were talking about like the extremes of AI, anything from what sort of pop culture shown it to be and what the reality may be, and then an element of, is it going to develop, if they're going to kill humans and take over the world and blah, 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 and all that business. And I kind of, to not get too deep into it in this particular moment, I see it as something that I am excited for as a toy, as a tool. But I think if we don't move forward with a sense of responsibility and respect for what we have, that's where something can be dangerous. And I always say that anything is like multifaceted. You know, I always say, you know, you can use a knife to butter your bread. You can also use it to stab someone, and it's the same thing. It just depends on the context and the hand that wields it and the mentality and perspective that you have towards it. So I'm kind of on the wavelength of the boys in the sense of I'm excited for it, but as Charlie said, there needs to be a maybe element of parameters or education around it, a bit of awareness developed. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for this poddy as well.
That's cool. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I completely agree with you guys. I think that's the general consensus at the moment. I think obviously a lot of people are very excited about it. A lot of people who are talking about it, like the people who work with AI, like hyper intelligent people, like the guy you sent in that podcast, Mo Gordat, and a guy who I was literally just watching do a big Q&A, and the guy who has been writing the books that I've been listening to, Yuval Noah Harari.
Oh yeah.
Their general approach is very much from a place of fear, it seems, as well as obviously understanding, and they've got evidence and knowledge to back up everything they're talking about. But it's very much of from a place of fear, and I think it's mainly because currently the most powerful AIs are in the hands of corporations, right? Like Google, Amazon, Facebook. You know, they're all working on AIs, and like you guys are saying, it's not massively regulated at the moment. Like even Mo was saying, you know, he left Google because he wants to be an ethical developer, right? He doesn't want to be he doesn't want to just work on these things and push the technology as far as it could go without regulation behind it. So yeah, I definitely agree with you guys, but I'm definitely optimistic for the future of humanity. Maybe there'll be bumps along the road, like more immediately, but I feel like the end goal will be, you know, definitely the next stage in human development or human evolution. You raised some very really good points there, Serhan, like in terms of, you know, what's internal and external, and I have some extra stuff on that later.
Yeah.
First, maybe a little bit of history, a bit of trivia on sort of how AI came about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or a couple of stories, really. So,
once upon a time,
there was so AI basically started off, you know, people making algorithms, putting together neural networks, trying to get a program to make its own sort of thought process with as little prompting as possible, right? So one of the first to do this was called Deep Blue, and it was sort of a purpose-built big supercomputer, like it was hench, and it was mainly just used to play chess. It came about in like 1996, so way back when, and it beat the world champion. Well, back then it actually lost to the world champion. They play 6 games within a certain rule set, and it lost 4-2. So they took it away, they upgraded it. It was made by IBM at the time. And then it came back in 1997 for a rematch, and it won 2 games and drew 3 of them.
Ooh.
So technically it won those games, and it was quite sort of the upset at the time. Even the world champion at the time, Garry Kasparov, was like, "Oh, I want a rematch," but after every match they dismantle it. So they were just like, no. And then they took it away. There was a lot of controversy about it as well. But even that AI would be thinking about 6 to 8 moves ahead, and sometimes even 20 moves ahead.
Does that technically count as AI though? Isn't it like CPU? Like if you were to play a game of chess on your phone now, it has like a difficulty thing. Is that technically thinking 8 moves ahead?
Yeah,
it's technically AI as well.
I mean, well, go ahead, Rick.
No, I think it's kind of like a very early stage of AI, right? Like it's still a machine that, like, you know, bearing in mind, this is like what, 96, 97, you said it was? Back in 96, 97, what was technology back then? You know, we was just kind of getting started with the internet when phones weren't overly a thing. And now you've got this machine that's thinking for itself, and it's toe to toe with a grandmaster of chess.
It's automated, right?
Yeah, like that's still an insane feat of technology back in 96, 97. And that's just like the start of it, right? Like since then, you've got, I mean, I know we'll get into it soon, but you've got like insane things happening. Like, you've got like robots and like a chat GPT in general. It was like the starting place for all this stuff. And that was only what, not even 20 years ago, 20, 30 years ago. And since in that time, we've gone leaps and bounds with tech, AI included. So yeah, man, I would consider that to be AI, even if it is just simple programming of like pieces.
But that's
and
it.
where they go
It
and
is
everything.
just simple programming of mathematics, isn't it? Like essentially, if someone moves somewhere in a game of chess,
Well,
I know you're not, unless it was like programmed to figure out their way of playing, like if it studied their way of playing and like developed an understanding of the player and then worked out that, because then technically no one's putting in that information. It's worked it out itself and it's working off its own answers.
The key term is the I in AI, it's intelligence, right? So the most basic way you can describe intelligence is pattern recognition. So like I was saying before, you're giving it's observing, you're giving it limited information. It knows how to play chess, but it's looking at the moves on the board and it's saying, okay, the most optimal move to make next would be this, because of the move after and the move after and the move after and all these other possible moves after. And it's the same thing that these chess grandmasters would be doing as well, thinking moves ahead based on the current state of play. So yeah, I get what you're saying. It's the same with some of the games we play, right? We would say, we see an NPC running into a wall. We say, "Oh, stupid AI."
Yeah.
Why is it programmed to do that? When really it's probably programmed to detect you within a certain radius, or follow you. When it gets close to you, it's supposed to like attack you or something like that. I mean, it's still it's kind of a form of intelligence, but yeah, it's predictable. Even if it's predictable, it can still be intelligent.
So would that be the difference of being reactive or active? And what I mean by that is, if the AI is responding to the grandmaster in a formulaic response. So if the grandmaster moves this piece from here to here, the exact same piece, the exact same move in 6 games, and the AI responds in exactly the same way, that is reactive. It's responding. It's like, okay, you've done this, so I'm going to do this. So it's more like following a preset formula. Whereas the intelligence side of it is like, right, you've done this, I'm going to try this time. So it's not about the information it has, it's about almost like the response that it chooses to say, right, you've done it this time, I've done it this time, I've responded with this move in the last game, I'm going to respond with this move instead because this might work out better. I can see the 100 possibilities, but I'm going to choose number 1 this game, number 6 this game, number 58 this one. So it's like, that's how I would see the intelligence. It's not pre-programmed as some games feel, where you play a move, it plays that bit, okay, I know what it's going to do, so I'm now preemptive, the preemptiveness. Whereas if it's trying to catch me off guard, it's making an intelligent choice. That's how I would differentiate it.
Yeah,
I would say,
go on.
Sorry, go on, Fraser, you go.
No, I was gonna compare it to something else that I don't have noted down here, but that I just remembered. But you go on with your point.
I think calling it AI is a bit of an undercut, considering it didn't win every game. If it won every game, you would say, oh wow, that's like a calculator. You put in this sum, it's going to give you whatever it is, even if your brain could possibly fathom it. This calculator will figure it out. Same way in that game of chess. If it won every single game, you'd be like, damn, that is a certainty, like AI. It's fully intelligent. It's sometimes intelligent. It doesn't always win.
Do you
think it's just programming.
Maybe at the time that intelligence just wasn't as intelligent as a grandmaster. I mean, if it won every time, then maybe it would be supporting your original point in where it's just literally doing
code.
It just just coding the game.
But I think that is what it is. Essentially, I think what it comes down to is just it's a type of code that they've put in, and how far back could you date that? Because technically, a lot of things operate in a similar way. Like, I'm not saying that it isn't a form of AI, because I think the term AI is a made up word from us anyway that could mean pretty much the same thing over and over again. Yeah.
But yeah, there was
that's interesting.
what I was reminded of. There was a different game, a different kind of board game. And I think this was further down the line. This was a bit later. I can't remember where I heard it. Must have been in that book. But there was a different kind of game that they taught an AI to play, and that AI was actually exhibiting, like, it was playing moves that some of the best players of the game hadn't thought of playing, and it surprised them. And I guess if you're surprised by intelligence, by an AI, that would really back up the fact that it might be intelligent.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying with the chess thing. That's pretty much it, isn't it? Like, if it can actually think and do something original, that's when it's like intelligence.
Yeah.
Sorry, Serhan.
No. I think I agree, and I see what Charlie's saying. I think it's more of the parameters of definition, because I think it is like relative to the time of, well, we can only put this much gigabyte or terabyte of information into this AI, so it can only respond so creatively. So it's not a lack of, is it an AI or is it not? To me, it's like, what's the level of intelligence? There's animals that are intelligent, maybe not as intelligent as humans. Does that make them not organic, not intelligent, not like responsive or creative? No, it just means they're not on our level. And maybe that's I think in the 90s that would have been considered AI. The fact that it could think for itself,
agreed,
was enough. Whereas for our generation and the pace in which we move and our development of technology, it's like, well, if that was now, you'd be like, dude, it's not.
It's not thinking for itself. I think that's the important part as well, is when you say it was a machine that was thinking for itself, it definitely wasn't thinking for itself. And I think that's where, like, what our definition of AI technically is that it's, you know what I mean? It's
got the ability to learn as well.
Yeah.
Be a good indicator.
Right. Yeah.
So that brings me on to the next point, actually. So Google DeepMind, which has been talked about for some years, I think. Back in 2015, it actually learned how to play 49 different Atari games. So all they told it was the pixels on the screen, and that it had to get a high score. And it played all 49 of these different games, learned how to play them, and obviously got the high score in them. Obviously basic games, of course, things like Pong and stuff like that. But
that's still
that
awesome.
Limited information. Yeah, it learned how to play those games.
Was that 49 different games you said?
49 Atari games. Yeah.
And it literally just like was learning and like failing and learning from its mistakes. And that's
clear AI.
Yeah,
I think
smart.
I think they probably ran it like 40 times or something before it learned how to play a game and get a high score. I think it was something like that, depending on the game.
I think it's kind of scary when you think about it. It is kind of scary that, just through trial and error, machines are learning how to do things, which I guess is like overall the entire point of it in the first place. But it is kind of scary that you start to think like, these machines do have some kind of, even if it's like a base consciousness, they are aware of one thing at the very least, and they're learning off of it, which means that what's to stop them from learning anything else?
It's like how big you make their world or their space of what's the word I'm thinking of, Sam? Their perception.
Over to you, Mr. Dictionary.
Spell checker.
Spell checker. What that, like their capacity.
Their perception. That was
their potential.
Scope.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, like whatever environment you put them in, they will just absorb it. They will absorb it and learn, and through trial and error or observation or whatever, they will learn. And I'm finding it difficult to see any kind of situation that you could put an AI in that it would not eventually learn. how to do better than humans. Like, I can't think of anything that AI will be
That's
worse
the scary
than
part.
humans.
That is
Yeah.
what's scary in it. Is that every conceivable angle of life. It's not just the creatives, because that's what everyone was saying at first, and it was that it's AI art and stuff is really taking over the art world. Like, you know, I think there was a whole book thing. I don't know if you guys heard it. Ellis, our friend Ellis, actually put it up on Facebook, and it was so I got the name here, MV Prindle, and it was this book called Bob the Wizard, and the art won cover of the year 2023. But all these artists on Twitter were like, that is 100% AI. Like, and they dug into it, and this guy was like, no, it's not. It's not. It's an original. It's an original. And eventually it turned out to be AI.
No.
But he got away with it for
Not a
quite
good
a
look.
while before it was figured out. But yeah, like, and it was just attacking more of the art corner. But now it's kind of going into, okay, well, kids can now plagiarize an entire essay, you know, by Chat GPT, and then you've got like even like workers on computers and stuff who like send emails all day. You can literally set up an AI to just do that and respond and, you know, direct different things and whatever. It's insane. Like, it's crazy. Every conceivable angle.
Yeah, because do you know what? You've just made me realize like one actual scary factor is, you know, how we don't really know how in the past as well, we don't really know what an AI is might be fully capable of doing, because art, like the being able to be creative was the original baseline for, like, you know, AI is going to be able to do this and that for us, but it's not going to be able to create like we do, like art and music and stuff like that. But as we've seen, you know, we can get AI to create art, we can get AI to write stories, we could get AI to write music as well. And that was like the sort of original baseline. There were people who were saying there were certain jobs that AI wouldn't be able to do as well, which, you know, 10 years later we're able to sort of rule that out. So I guess AI is getting closer and closer to us, like having brains and things like that. Whereas, like we were saying before, our original conception of AI was probably quite basic, as in it's going to be able to do something really quickly, or, you know, just better
See,
practically.
I would never use the word better creatively, because if I take the word AI away, AI has access to a lot of information, a lot of functionality. It can think at a different rate, let's say, a more consistent rate than a human would, depending on what day we're on. But that doesn't make it better. Like, it might be easier and quicker, but okay, Charlie can draw something quicker than I can. But to say it's better is just down to preference. Oh, they can make music. Okay, cool. But maybe I don't like that genre. Oh, it can draw this, but maybe I don't like that artist style. I can imagine it one day becoming more of a thing of sort of like how, you know, how handwriting's become now, after typing kind of came out and become predominant now. Like, people that have beautiful handwriting, it's become like calligraphy. It's become an art. You can get them to do your invitations. It's become something that you pay for. It's a next level of a technique that we're not really so used to now. And I can imagine one day people being, and the money for it becoming higher, of like, oh, this is a human written song, this is a human written piece of art, and people are going to pay more for it, rather than it's just being produced by something not automated, but something that we can click on, rather than a human.
Yeah, I think that will be the catch. Like, in a couple of years' time, once AI has properly kicked off, like, AI will take over everything. I genuinely don't see anything AI will be shit at, in like jobs wise or creative wise, anything. Like, I do believe that whatever you put the AI in, it will do amazing at, because you can't beat it. It won't make a mistake. It can just trudge on forever. Like, nothing's going to stop it. But the one thing that people will start to miss is like human connection stuff. Like I said in that interview with Mo, the human side of everything, like human connection, like things being done by a human, like humans writing books or humans hand painting art and fucking up a little bit. It might be a fuck up, but it's a human fuck up, and that'll become more of a what's the
The
word?
rarity.
Yeah, and people will appreciate the human side of the shit a lot more than we do now.
Mhm.
You know, and then that will
The
become
the
like the kind of
imperfections, right?
exactly.
Mhm.
When everything's so perfectly clean and clear cut, people will start to miss the fuck ups that make humans humans. You know, I think that will
Yeah.
be the flip side of it once everything kicks off, whenever that will be.
I mean, authenticity is always going to be treasured more because you can like correlate it to a face, you know, and when you can like idolize a person or, you know, look at someone's work and like be like a fan, you can't be a fan of an AI thing, or is what we would believe now. But then when AI start creating their own characters and musicians, and which you've already kind of got like anime musicians and like K-pop bands and shit, but like when AI start to do that and they can create their own websites and create their own, this is where it's like this tree is just going to like start to grow. And I feel like we need to kind of like, we need to utilize it as a tool instead of letting, I think the internet has a lot of access to it at the minute.
Starts treading into culture, doesn't it? It starts
Yeah.
stepping into that territory.
I've got so much to say on all of this stuff. That's why I'm staying quiet. But there is, when I go into, well, I've had moments in my life I've gone really deep into rabbit holes, and I don't want to even call them conspiracies, but even the ideas of the foundation of our social media, the way we use our phones, and the reason we put so much of ourselves into it in terms of everything from our pictures, our videos, our voices, our ideas, everything we upload. There are theories and ideas that state that this structure has been designed so as the development of AI becomes more predominant, their understanding to become more human comes from the fact that we are uploading so much onto the internet. And some people say that the system has been designed that way. So when AI gets to a point, we've given to the creators, not the AI itself, the blueprint of humanity, of even our facial expressions and tone of voice and body language, because it's all being recorded. There is, no matter what, it is a massive brain we are feeding, and all it takes is one person to tap into it, and whatever direction it goes in. But that's like just an idea, just a theory that our technology now is almost a bit of sort of like an underground tool to build this database of the blueprint of humanity that will feed into the development of AI. And I know that, and again, I saw this interview, I think it was a Joe Rogan interview, and the biggest development of not necessarily AI, but let's say robotics that look like human, have come from the sex industry. Like the industry that basically developed the blow up doll. And now the way we see it develop more probably in the east of like China and Japan is come from a lot from the sex industry, because
Sex is in demand.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong. And they've done a consensus, and they've done a little survey, and I can't remember what they were asking, but the end result was like, would you fuck a machine? And people were like, yeah,
Yes.
100%. If it looked exactly the way I wanted them to look, an idealistic version of sexiness and beauty, absolutely. And that sort of physical development of the sex industry combined with whoever's developing the AI for whatever reason, you combine those two factors, and now you've got something that can act, feel, replicate, emote, and create like a human, and now look like the pinnacle of a human. It's inevitably going to feed into our society. And
That's
even for that, I've got
crossed, right? Like when that's something like that kicks off, and you've got like AI sex robots that are walking around, that can do whatever the fuck you want them to do. They can look however you want them to look, and you can code them to behave in whatever way you want them to. So they will be at home cooking you dinner if you want. They'll be doing everything and anything you want, emotionally, financially, mentally, everything that you want in a partner, they can be. And all you've got to do is just program it, and then that's it. Like that at that point, dude, society, I will fully crumble, because
I don't
can
think so.
imagine. You
I
think?
don't think so.
Dude,
I
can
think,
imagine,
do you know what, mate?
so many people would just be like, no, I don't need the outside world anymore. I'm stuck. I'm done. I've got everything here. I've got my games. I've got my computer, robot, sex doll wife. I'm good. That's it. And people will just abandon humanity. I can see
Possibly.
a lot of, maybe not everyone, but a lot of people would do that.
Okay, imagine though, there's that's that girlfriend situation thing where you can have whatever girlfriend you want and whatever. Now think about how many predators would be off the street straight away. They'll be stuck in their basements, fucking their AIs, and that's fine. You can leave them down there all day, and they can any size or shape AI they want. They can have it. It's fine. No one gives a fuck. So that's already a little benefit to it. And the thing is, you got to think if you're rolling with the times, you're then going to have like policemen that are incredibly, well equipped to deal with things. Who's in control of them is a different question because the government. But if they're AI, they might run on their own. However, I do think we've given them a massive backlog of ideas like the Matrix and shit that I think if they like start watching movies and shit, they're going to be like, yeah, this is a good idea, and that's when it's just going to happen anyway. So I think we've essentially just laid out our own fucking death.
Well, that's I guess that's probably one of the industries that will need to be regulated. If you've watched the Animatrix, that's pretty much literally what happens. Like one robot goes rogue, and then there's riots.
Ad break.
We can cut to an ad break.
Ad break.
Possibly.
See you after the break.
You don't have to worry about any mundane aspects of your daily life anymore with AI's help. AI Shah is here to help you revolutionize your life and make every day awesome. With AI Shah, you won't have to worry about doing dishes or brushing your teeth. AI Shah can do it for you. No need to worry about making breakfast. AI Shah can do that too. And you don't have to bother writing that essay for school either. AI Shah can write it for you. You won't even need to figure out what to wear for the day. AI Shah can pick the perfect outfit for you. And you don't need to worry about how you're going to get around town. AI Shah will drive you there, fast and safely. On top of that, AI Shah can even keep your house clean and organized, and can even babysit your kids if needed. With AI Shah, you can finally enjoy a stress-free, productive life. As they say, AI does it all. So what are you waiting for? Get AI Shah today and make your life easier. This advert was written, composed and performed by AI.
Shh.
Myself in the head.
Stop it. Copyright.
All right, welcome back. And moving on then. New question. So, are you guys afraid of losing your jobs to AI?
No. I mean, I remember there was a time. So obviously, I work as a therapist, and I remember there was a time. Obviously, it's reflective of the day and age, where the tutor was like, our job is pretty safe for the future, for the time being, because it's a very humanistic job. It needs like emotions and development and whatnot. And I think at the time I was like, oh, good, whew, like that's okay. I think now as we're developing, I'm apprehensive, but I'm not. I wouldn't say scared. Not at the moment.
Okay, well, just to touch on that in a moment. So I guess your kind of job security is coming from the emotional side of the work that you do.
Yes, that capacity for my job,
the empathy and stuff like that.
Yeah, because it's one of those jobs where you can know the theory enough, but the theory doesn't reflect the person behind it.
Mm-hmm. So Yuval Noah Harari touches on this, and basically humans and the way we think and the way we feel things can be like broken down into algorithms.
Yeah,
they're just organic algorithms, right? He breaks down 3 points actually.
Mm-hmm.
What book was this, by the way? By Yuval Noah Harari?
So it's the second book that he speaks about it most. It's called Homo Deus.
Yeah, I've got it.
It's
awesome.
worth a listen. Yeah, it's really good. And the first book, Sapiens, is a good ride as well.
Yeah, I like Sapiens.
But yeah, it can be a little bit on the depressive side, like a bit existential doomy kind of side, but also it comes from a place of deep research and facts.
Yeah.
So basically organisms are algorithms in a broad sense, but what he's basically saying is the way we feel our emotions, the chemical reactions and things like that, the way we react to things can be broken down into algorithms, right? And algorithmic calculators are not affected by the composition of the calculator. So what he's saying is what you can use to work out these algorithms, you know, taking the initial variables, you know, what you touch, how it felt, what you saw, things like that, is not affected by what it's made of. So if you're actually doing, it does not affect the end result. So what his example is, if you've got an abacus, you know, the old thing where you draw the beads across, and that was basically the first calculator. If it's made from wood or if it's made from metal, it still does the same thing. It still does the calculation for you. So in that sense, organic algorithms are replicatable by non-organic algorithms. So if we delve into does that mean you can have an AI that's been trained with enough emotional data collected from people that it can empathize?
I think it will take a while, right? I don't think it's going to be like something as simple as AI is created and then it can suddenly take jobs like being a therapist or a counselor or something like that. I think something like that, AI is going to take a bit more time to catch up to, because being a therapist or being a counselor is, you need that human connection, right? You need that humanity side in a person to connect with and open up with and share stuff with. Would you be willing to do that with a robot? That is just code and it's just lights and a bunch of
depends on how good it is.
Well, yeah, what is a robot and what is a stranger? You know, realistically, you know, as much as you're going into a room to talk to a human being about your problems, and obviously this is no disrespect to you at all, sir, and I'm just talking hypothetically. This isn't the reality. But I mean, you know, hypothetically, if you were to walk into a room and there is someone sitting there, they're not they're not a real person. They know they're not a real person, but they are very much 100%, and I mean 100%, equipped to answer and deal with any emotions that you're going through as a basic human being. Because at the end of the day, that is what we are. We're all basic human beings, and AI and just general science will be able to break humans down into certain types of, you know, personality categories and, you know, different, you know, there's so many ways to categorize a person as a person, and an AI could have that information and instantly know exactly what you need to get, you know what I mean? It's, at the end of the day, it is probably a better person than most people, because it will be able to learn and adapt and be a better person back to you
designed for
most other people could. Yeah.
I don't disagree. I completely agree with it, but I feel like before AI can get to that kind of point where they can start taking over those kind of jobs, it's going to be a lot more time until that happens. Like beginning stages of AI will be like the way it started in 96, 97 with the IBM's Deep Blue playing chess and beating grandmasters and everything. That was the very early stages. Now we're like a bit more advanced with it. We've got
but we're on that incline.
But what you're basically saying, Rikesh, is that it needs enough training data. Basically, everybody is giving away their data these days. So things like things like your heart rate, stuff like that, can be used to figure out the way you're feeling at the time.
That's terrifying. Oh my God.
Think there's a component missing in this. And I agree with all of you, because I think all fragments of it, there's a truth in it. But let's just jump to some hypothetical future where AI, machines, robots, all of it looks and feels very human. It's got enough information there. And as Charlie kind of said, like, it would be almost better than what a human could be, because it's not just learned it, it's been designed for it. Now, this was born and created to be this thing from day one of its production. First, let's take the human element of it. Like, a lot of our human reactions and the way we perceive life is the knowledge that we're not going to exist one day, that we're going to die, that we're organic, that we deteriorate and slow down to a certain extent. Now, I'm going to go talk to an AI, a machine, a material. Yes, there's wood as human and there's metal as a robot, and they age differently. But if I know on some level that you're not, you can tell me everything, all the right words, and it can make me feel good, but on a deeper, and I go more into a spiritual level, on a deeper level, you don't have the existential fear of dying. So you're not going to understand certain things in the way I would like you to. At the back of my mind, I'm going to know that. But even if I put that aside and develop the AI even further, the moment an AI develops its own sense of identity and consciousness and a higher level of thinking, it's when it's going to be able to connect to our way of existential crisis of, oh my God, like I'm not going to be here one day. And sometimes that moment hits you. It's almost like in The Good Place, where she kind of where Eleanor explains it to Michael of like, yeah, humans are always a little bit sad, but that's what brings purpose to the happiness, to the enjoyment of things, because you know on some level you're impermanent. And I think once an AI gets to a point where it can question itself on that level of why am I here, how am I here, when's my life going to end, if I can't die organically, what will take me away from this, do I have an afterlife, was I developed, just once it can ask those sort of questions and develop its own faith, I don't mean just religion, just faith and an idea, an ideology, that's when they will get closer to be able to connect to humans. Because if we can both ask the same questions, then I feel like we can connect, not just on a mental and emotional and physical level, but on a spiritual level. And I don't know if a machine will be able to emulate that. And if it can, then at that point, it exists as its own species. And it needs to be recognized for that, even if it's close to us. So that's kind of where my thought pattern is. I've got no threat of an AI or what it can do or what it can develop. As I always said, it's the knife. I have got no problem with it. It's the hand that holds it that freaks me out. It's the humans behind it that will freak me out more than what that can do. Because if we are developing it, then we are the parents and we need to raise it in the appropriate way.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's the thing, right? Like, we're not the people in control of this, the ones writing the code. They are the parents, right? They're the ones in control of the AI. They're the ones that program the AI to do whatever it is that they want, and we don't know what that is, right? Like, all the code for AIs and like ChatGPT, all that stuff is just open source code on the internet that anyone can access and grab a hold of and do whatever they want to do with it. If you get some genius group of like black hat hackers that want to take all this stuff and develop like a Terminator level AI, who's going to stop that? No one's going to be able to. There are no laws against for this. There's no regulations. There's no one policing any of this. That's the reality of it. And it could be that does happen, and people develop an AI with sadistic motives in mind. It could be all friendly at first, and oh my God, I'm an AI, I'm your friend. Yeah, great. And then it could switch after a couple of years, and then that will be the singularity, right? That was when AI genuinely becomes aware of itself, when it starts asking itself, like, why am I here? What is my purpose? Human questions that we ask ourselves every day. At that point, that's it. The AI's taken over. There's nothing we can do about that. We can't stop that.
Yeah, I think it is obviously a genuine worry, and the reality of it is that, you know, we don't know what consciousness really is. We can't quantify it. We can't replicate it. But the intelligence side of artificial intelligence is just exponentially flying up, and to have a morality and things like that, even without intention. You know, if somebody was to chuck a hyper intelligent AI out onto the internet, they have no idea of what it's going to end up with. But most people's predictions are that it would exterminate humanity. But
you can
but
understand why, though.
that is the issue.
Or subsidize, like not subsidize, like just
Subdue.
literally just
Subjugate.
like I think we will literally be in a virtual reality world. I think it will be like the Matrix, essentially. Because they could just eradicate everyone, but I don't know. Maybe they'd just be like, nah, we'll leave them. Best case scenario. God, it is dark though, isn't it? Any way it goes.
I think that's the perspective.
I don't
personally believe in that sort of doomsday scenario. I think AI is going to be good. That personally, but
Yeah.
what was you going to say, Sam?
No, I agree with you. I think, and we can only do this as humans. It's natural, or even as a personality, based on our own experiences, our own thoughts, that we look at AI as if we were the AI. Because if we took an experiment and said, right, you're a human being, you're all organic, you're all human, and all that jazz. I'm going to plug something into you, and you're going to get every bit of information you can and think as fast and clearly and so intuitively. As a human, you start to think, well, if I'm that intelligent, I'm going to possibly start to maybe disconnect from my emotions a little bit. I might start to become the next step in evolution. I'm going to start to create a hierarchy. I'm going to be the alpha. I'm going to want to, and instinctively, I think as humans, we think and believe that if something is bigger or stronger than us, it can hurt us. So if something is at the pinnacle of what we assume is AI, where we think, well, if we're in their position, I would eradicate everything less than it, everything that is threatening the world, the environment itself, our sort of a bit of a toxic culture, our society, and our ethics and morals, and the way we do things. So if I was the AI, I would eradicate. So we're kind of imprinting what we would do as humans and our fears. If I was never going to age, I was made of a material that you can't hurt, I was stronger than you and smarter than you and faster than you, as my instinct tells me, you have the ability to hurt me, so you are. And I think that's where
That's why
strong
everybody's
consensus of
initial reactions are like this.
yeah, because it comes from a sense of instinctual survival, because behind instinct is emotion. Our years of emotional programming has created an instinct of that thing scares me, so it can hurt me. And then as the years go by, it becomes reactive and quicker. Same way as burning your hand as a child on fire. You don't know it's going to burn, but once you do, that fear becomes so quick. You move so fast away from fire that it becomes instinctive. And I think that's where this sort of consensus of it's going to fuck us, it's going to kill us, it's going to take over, because that's what we're supposed to think and feel to a certain extent to survive.
In reality, we don't really know.
We
could
don't.
We could be wrong. We could be right.
Oh yeah,
We could also
could be right.
wrong.
Could be dead on the money.
And that's what I don't care that we're developing AI. My question is why? That is more interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry that I'm going to keep going to rabbit hole. Charlie, you say what you're going to say.
Well, why is
Go on.
because everything that humanity have ever created has been designed to make life easier.
Mm-hmm.
That is it. Everything
Yeah.
we've ever created is to make life easier. And AI is just another step in that direction. Now, the problem with AI is that we're actually now stepping on a territory where a hammer couldn't teach itself how to hammer. These things can. These things can teach themselves how to get better, which means we now have competition. And that is the end. That's where it's going to turn.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't put a lid on the fact that AI could easily outdo us, because it can soon, and I think it has done. It just won, front cover of the year, in a little competition, and it was beating people at chess, back in the 90s. So, it's like we already know that it can beat us. The people who are programming it need to have fail safes and stuff like that, because I think this is either going to be a very quick shitstorm or a very quick learning curve that we're like, okay, we shut that down quick. Now we know how to do it properly, and then we can go from there and actually get it right. But I think at the minute, the internet has way too much access, and the internet is an already very unstable place. AI is a very unstable and dangerous development in technology, and I think we have got way too much access. The fact that we can already create things on our phones is too much power.
Possibly too soon.
So I think you're right. Like, in an ideal world, if everything was to be perfect, we would pause the development of AI at least for the time being, until we can figure out the fail safes, like what we should and shouldn't do with it. Okay, we want it to do this, we want it to do that, but we don't want it to take over. We don't want it to captivate humans and lock us up or whatever. Like, in an ideal world, that would be the perfect thing to do, to stop and set some guidelines in place so that I get everyone on the same page of who's developing these insanely powerful machines. Get everyone on the same page so everyone knows crystal clear about it, and then continue from there. But we all know the world does not work like that. Everyone is selfish and it's a competition, and it's the first one to get there wins. And so it will never work out that way. You know, people will rush this thing and just keep bombarding it with everything and anything they can. And to be the first one to be like, oh, Facebook's the first ones to create an AI.
Yeah,
And then that'll be it.
absolutely.
And
as long as the corporations allowed
yeah, and that's it.
unregulated
And then up
control,
to
that is
point,
definitely the route
yeah,
that it will immediately take.
That's terrifying.
Can I go deeper into my rabbit hole, or Fraser, do you want to move it on?
What
Because I
was
can
what
sprinkle
was
this in as we go.
what was we going on about? What was you going to go into? It was
Just again reflecting on what everyone was saying. Well, one thing I will clarify is when Rikesh says we and humanity, I kind of want to put an asterisk there of we say we, but it's a very small percentage of people making these decisions. And it's not humanity. It's also not even society. It's not one's choice. We assume it's the world, but it's the way. And I'm going to call these people the parents that are top of the hierarchy, the people that are supposed to take care of us. And you can call them governments, parliaments, fucking hidden organizations, whatever, Illuminatis, but they're there. And it's a very small fragment leading the way. And I know as humans, we instinctively always look towards leadership and guidance. And I know we need that, you know. But I just kind of want to make that distinction. But I don't think it's the fail safe. It's like what I said at the beginning. It's a level of responsibility. If we believed, and I know we've gone more into the scientific model in society, that you know it's just cause and effect. That there is nothing and no one to really take care of us outside of our friends or family or ourselves. And that's why I say it's an element of responsibility. If we're going to be the parent to these things, if we're playing God and developing something new, like any God that we kind of interpret or believe in, it's in our own image. What we are scared of is the imprint of what we don't like about ourselves. So we're trying to, if we want to be strong and beautiful and young, we're reflecting our insecurities onto creating these machines. And we're kind of feeding it in an ideal world, idealistic, but it's kind of imprinting those issues there. We're not looking at ourselves. We're looking at what we can do to make our lives easier. As Charlie said, I completely agree. But as humans, we're not designed for life to be easy. It gives us a sense of purposelessness. It's like, again, in The Good Place where they go to heaven. And because there's no challenges of life, people are losing their intelligence. People are losing their satisfaction and fulfillment of life because there's nothing ahead of us to give purpose to it. If we're not dying and we're not being challenged and we're not working in a way that helps our sort of spiritual, emotional, mental evolution and development, we have no sense of growth. So the easier life becomes, the easier it is for people to become disconnected and depressed because we're not living our sort of human purpose versus our what we think is right for us versus what it actually is right. We want life to be easier when it was never designed to be so.
Yeah, it depends as well on what we define as our human purpose, because people losing their jobs to AI might see that as a machine taking their purpose, whereas maybe they might be meant for something else, you know, or maybe humanity
of course
should be meant for something else, you know. And yeah, I want to go into that as well, maybe a bit later, but also just to ask you as well, Rikesh, do you think an AI would take your job?
I mean, dude, I work
Even
in
now or in the
IT, so
future?
if an AI is going to take my job, it would be very, very easy. Most of my stuff is all networking kind of shit anyway, so it would be nothing to an AI. Something that already understands the language. Yeah, my job would go like that. So I'm not worried about it being taken over immediately, but I feel like if AI was to get to a certain point where it could start taking over jobs, mine could very easily be one of them. Because, you know, I work with computers all day, so if for a computer to fix another computer would be just another day for that. So it could happen. I'm not worried about it happening, but I feel like it definitely could, for my job at least.
I think so as well for my job, working with computers and different products and processes. Yeah. And you feel secure about your job, Charlie?
I mean, Yes and no. I mean, it's another development in technology, and I fix arcade machines, build arcade machines for a living. So I don't see AI getting to the point where they're physically going out and doing my job. But I think AI could get to the point where arcades become a bit less important and aren't used as much. So
I'll be honest
either
with
way.
you. I know this is really it's just a small tangent. It just sounded so cool though. It's just the fact that like he just mentioned off the cuff, like, yeah, I just fix and build arcade machines. Like the kid in me is like, wow. Do you play House of the Dead? Could you do that for me? Like it just sounded so cool. Everyone's got it so standard. It's like I build arcade machines. Like, oh my god.
It's a fun job. It's a really
It
fun
just
job.
sounds so cool, I'm not gonna lie.
I can't see AI doing it. Don't think. And well, unless the machines learn to fix themselves.
It depends. It depends, I guess, on how arcade machines get developed, if they do,
That's it. Yeah,
isn't it?
that's the threat.
But yeah, you do seem like the most secure out of us.
Woo.
But yeah, in terms of jobs, then, so I think the reason that it can become easy for AIs to take our jobs is because we professionalize a lot more. So we got people doing sort of one specific task or one specific job, and then you can train an AI to do one specific task as well. So back in the day, MIT and Harvard in 2004, they thought that truck driving would not be able to be automated, but then sort of straight away, you got Tesla working on automated cars. So they were proven wrong quite quickly. So in another study on the future of employment, they actually calculated with an algorithm the most likely jobs to get replaced in 2033. And if you've listened or read Homo Deus, you probably heard this, Charlie. But they said that 47% of US jobs would be at risk, with a 99% possibility that insurance underwriters and telemarketers would be replaced, which is understandable.
Yeah.
98% sports referees.
No, 98% sports
98%.
referees.
If you see the developments in
Yeah.
VAR and things like that at the moment, I mean, if you've got an AI watching a match, they probably would be more vigilant than a current ref might be on a pitch.
No bias. That makes more sense. Like a referee and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Like something happens, and you just look up at the screen to see what the fucking AI says, and it's like foul. It's like, yeah, it's a foul. Wow, mad.
97% cashiers.
Yeah.
96% chefs. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, imagine. I mean,
Chefs.
they've got robots that they're trying to get to do operations, right? Medical procedures. So I guess you could get a similar kind of thing preparing food.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
By 2033.
If you can get something to do surgery with a steady hand, food you don't need to be as steady. It makes sense.
2033 is 10 years.
Surgery and being a chef are two different things. Like for right now, I think it makes more sense for an AI to be a surgeon because, steady hand, they're never going to make a mistake. They can always see what they're doing. They know the human anatomy better than anything else. So they won't ever get tired like a human will after like a 12, 13-hour operation or whatever. They'll just keep trudging along. But chef? Like without taste buds and like really? Would you trust a robot? I mean, I try a robot's food, but I wouldn't be like, yeah.
Yeah, but then they have the information of recipes. Like there are infinite recipes that they would have an archive of. Plus, they could get feedback from review. Yeah, I mean, realistically, and they'd make it perfect every time.
Just consider this.
It makes sense on paper. That makes sense, but in practicality, I don't think that would work. A chef AI.
New ideas.
Take away. I don't know how many years, but let's say a couple of 100 years, and you said to someone, "Listen, you're going to get a metal box one day. You're going to put food in it, click a button, and it's going to make it hot for you." They're going to be like, "No fucking way!" And now it's a microwave. Like, I know it's not AI making you food, but to a certain extent, that is still something mechanical creating heat. out of
It's
nowhere.
a tool. It's a tool for sure. It's a box that heats things up. Okay, yeah, sure, fine. But that's not an AI. That's not making your
No,
food.
no,
You're
no.
putting the food in there.
No, it's not. I'm just trying to say that if the abstract idea of a microwave how many years ago was unbelievable, then I would just say keep an open mind. That bro, that believe me, there's gonna be a day there's gonna be
Don't get me
an
wrong,
AI
I'm not
cooking it,
writing it
and he's
off.
gonna know
I'm not
your
writing
name.
it
He's
off.
gonna know what you like.
There's a robot restaurant in Milton Keynes that Damien had went to for his birthday. I went. Me and Jade went as well. It was, mate.
Is that the
robots are
one
pretty
that's
dope.
like a little buggy one, like a circular machine? I've seen on Instagram, and they kind of just like, and they kind of drive the food up to you, and you can click your orders, and it kind of
Like the
communicates with
busboys.
you.
I have seen that, and that is way better. The one in Milton Keynes is it like has waiters and waitresses robots that come out with the food and stuff. Yeah, it's really cool. It's very simple technology, but yeah, it's already kind of there.
Well, waiters are at
cool.
94% on the list.
Hey, they're lower than chefs.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it?
What?
Wait, what?
I guess though, no, because I guess that's the human interaction, isn't it?
Yeah,
because you don't see the
chefs are closed doors.
Mm.
Waiters are at the desk at the front.
But the creativity of the chef is probably like the part that gets people to come to the restaurant. So that's kind of ironic in a
No, but
weird
imagine
way.
if they say, right, we've got 10 mechanical chefs, but we've imprinted them with one human chef. So Gordon Ramsay has imparted his style, technique, and recipes into 10 individual machines. So it's the Gordon Ramsay brand, but
just
it's
copy
just
and
the
pasted.
machine. It's just copy and pasted in the machine. Like the process of it makes sense. Unless the machine, the AI creates itself, that's another story. But very believable in my opinion. Because cooking
Gordon
is a
Ramsay,
function.
but it's like capital RAM. See?
Oh my god!
Smart.
You genius! You absolute genius! Copyright. Hashtag that.
Oh, no. We just got to get a copy of Gordon Ramsay's brain, but yeah.
Yeah, simple.
Easy.
Yeah. I'm going to run through some of these. 91% tour guides. I don't know who uses tour guides anymore. I haven't been on a tour for a long time. 88% construction. Imagine how quickly you could actually build buildings or like do roadworks, stuff like that. Get them smashed out with an AI. That'd be good. Or a machine. 84% security.
Wow, security is quite low. Which is kind of
I don't
strange
know if
because
that-
security
Yeah.
I mean, 80-something%
Very
is
insecure
still
job.
kind of high.
It's all high, man. None of it is
Yeah, well,
acceptable.
this is
but-
obviously this is a bit blown out of proportion a little bit, but I mean, I think they're kind of right in what's higher than the other sometimes.
Specifically, I don't know exactly what they mean by security. I kind of imagine, like a camera system for a building and then linked to a central server. Maybe some kind of recognition technology. So if they see somebody if it detects somebody breaking in, it will alert the
You know what?
authorities. Maybe
There's,
rather than having a
iRobot.
guy sitting in front of a load of screens.
There is a
maybe that's
really good AI documentary on YouTube. I can't remember. My uncle showed it to me ages ago. I think it was about Japan. There's a particular city in Japan that is like one of the furthest developed cities in tech, and it makes me laugh because the guy who produced the AI for this city has named the AI Skynet as a joke. Yeah, he's literally touching on it, right? But it's one of the only cities in the world, for example, where
He's one of those
and the
people that
document-
need regulated.
Yeah.
No, but the documentary shows both sides of people very for it and very against it. Like, because it was showing that the people of that city have been brought up in such an environment, they were really like interviewed and they were like, why are the West so like fussed about their data being sold? They're like, as long as you're not breaking the law, who the hell cares? Oh, they know where you are, they know what you're doing. And it was very nonchalant. And the other side was other officials in the like that particular city society of the hierarchy kind of saying like, no, this is an issue. Like people are selling parts of themselves that don't realize are being used to kind of manipulate them. So one example is there was a flats, like an apartment building. No one in this apartment has keys. It's all facial recognition. You walk up, and it knows who you are, so it opens the door for you.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I know
Right.
It's in China, Shenzhen. The city
Is
of
it in
Shenzhen,
China? Okay, I apologize.
Shenzhen,
I
yeah.
didn't mean Japan then. It was China. But
Yeah.
the function of no keys is awesome. But then it shows the other side of the documentary of now the building managers invited the camera crew and went, we can't tell you all the information we have, but we have this information and we know who the most popular person in the building is, who gets the most visitors, who are the most frequent visitors. And it's like, why do you need that information? What are you using it and why? And it showed it in a level of security of, it showed like a festival of people, and they send out a drone, the police does, and it scans everyone, and it goes immediately into your record. It doesn't matter if you have an unpaid fine, ticket, conviction, and if you're scanned and you come up red, the police come straight for you and they pick you up.
Violation.
And that's like a, yes, but also it's a combination of like it's like a very strong tool, security using. So if 80% of the AI is doing the looking, you only need 20% to catch the person. And that's just one example. It's a really interesting documentary. It's like 20-30 minutes on YouTube, but this was a fair few years ago. This was like 4 or 5 years ago, but it really showed a side of things. We were like, whoa, this is scary, but you could kind of see where we're heading.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, it's kind of scary. I mean, I do kind of get that side of it. Like, you know, why is everybody so worried about their data? But it is like kind of the one thing you should still own about yourself, I guess. Certain things like that, because once you start giving that out, and then it goes into the system, it goes into the algorithm, and then it comes back to you. You probably had that feeling before where you've looked at an advert on your phone and it's like, oh, I was just talking about this. I was just talking about buying this or something like that. And it's kind of freaky, but it is that level of manipulation that's kind of it's kind of underhanded.
Is it manipulation or is it just assisted? You know, essentially you're going to get adverts anyway, because you get that option come up on your phone, right, where it's like, do you want personalized ads or not? And I've tried both, because I've been like, no, don't like take my data and shit. But then I get ads that are like, what the fuck? Why are you showing me like women's lingerie and shit? You know what I mean? And I'm like, get the hell out of here. But then when you do personalized, it's like, oh, okay. There's a Pokemon sale, you know, bid going on somewhere. And it's like, you know, I might not go and buy it because, you know, money situation or, you know, time situation or whatever. But it's still nice to be directed in the right, because at some point you'll see something and you'll be like, oh my God, that would be an amazing present for blah, 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 because I was talking about their birthday the other day, or they know that their birthday is coming up. So, you know, it's reminded me that it's their birthday and it's like told me what to buy them. Yeah, great. Not told me what to buy them. That was probably not the best.
I think it comes down to
your sisters
intentions
listen to
again.
this, don't they?
There's another documentary on Netflix that I remember Hassan was showing me, and it was about people that used to work at social media companies, and one of them was talking about Instagram. And he was like, right, so he goes, we've got profiles of people, and he goes, if I know someone is talking about someone, and the example they gave was there's two guys talking about a girl, one of them's got a crush on the girl. He goes, we will nudge him on his social media app to be like, oh, so and so, this girl is on this profile, is on this page, or she's interested in these sort of things, or she's liked this photo from someone. And again, it's the intentions behind it. And all these people in the documentary on Netflix have left this now. They're doing the whole like interviews in the dark. They don't want to be like recognized and all that jazz. But again, it's that's why I say it's manipulation, not because it's like that on a surface level. It's guidance and advice, but the people behind it, I personally don't trust it, but I'm a hypocrite because I take advantage of it.
But then if everyone's in control of it, then no one's really behind it. You know what I mean? Like, at the minute we're all kind of given this access, so we're all in control of it. This random guy who made a front cover for this novel managed to win for a little bit, you know, got found out, but that was him. That was his decisions. It wasn't the people who made the AI software. It was him. And this is the thing, they've now given the people the tools. So I think now that the people have that power, it could go one way or the other. It's probably not going to go the right way, but they now have the power to, you know, do the right things and the things that they love, and, you know, and it will help everyone be happier, because as I said before, this thing is designed to make things easier. And if everyone's got things a little bit easier, maybe we'll be a little bit happier. Maybe we won't. But different
I
people.
hope so.
Very good point.
I
Very good
hope
points.
so.
Yeah, that kind of segues on quite nice. I think
Really great
hopefully
book.
now what we'll talk about will put everything in perspective and maybe hopefully make us optimistic for the future, I think. So big developments in humanity's progress have always drastically changed the way we live. So even going back to like our hunter-gatherer days as Homo sapiens, that's like 200,000 years ago. Then sort of proceeding on to agriculture, the development of agriculture, domesticating animals, growing crops and things like that. Because as hunter-gatherers, we would have small communities, we would travel a lot, whereas the beginning of agriculture made us want to stay in one place, maybe grow communities there. And that drastically changed our social dynamic as humans, as well as like our sort of family dynamics and things like that. And then the industrial era definitely changed things in terms of mass production, consumerism. That it made our communities even smaller, if you think about it, in terms of sticking within our families and friends, like you said before, Serhan. We wouldn't typically, like the saying says, it takes a village to raise a child. We would rather stick to the nuclear family, and every adult is responsible for their children. And then the sort of the computing age that we're in at the moment. So I feel like everyone's more isolated than they've ever been before, and even pre-COVID, I would say. And it's just at the same time we're more connected as well, because obviously we've got phones and we've got the internet. But yeah, it's a trend, and it's an exponential curve that we're on. And I think AI is quite possibly the next step there. So going back to, well, not going back to, but moving on from the whole job side of it, maybe it could be used to sort of turn this around as well. So if AI do become better at doing certain jobs that we do, doing 50 to 80% of the jobs that we do at the moment, do we then redefine what we see as jobs? Because back in the day, when we had a more social aspect to our communities, we would have a multitude of skills. We would go out and find food, we would fix our clothes, we would build our houses, we would raise our children and things like that. So do we then see things like having to raise a child as a job, and a job that should be done well?
Oh,
things like
that's
that.
a very interesting question.
That is a very good question.
AI
Because
nannies.
if you've already got an AI that can do everything, why would you not let the AI just raise your child? I mean, I don't imagine anyone anytime soon would be happy with that. There will be a few people, I'm sure, but in like 100 years, 200 years time, like, why would you not? Right? The option is there. It's so much easier. Tools are for your convenience, right? Everything we'll be talking about, like humanity's evolution, has been for our own convenience and to make life easier. Raising a child is not an easy task. Not that I know, but raising a child is not easy. Why would you not let the AI, someone like a perfect being, raise your child? Right?
Well,
But
that's it. I think that's literally going to be the start of our evolution, right? Of our next stage in an actual evolution, like internal, as Serhan said, our actual internal evolution. Because if you're being raised and you're being taught by these infinitely knowledgeable teachers, isn't that essentially going to be like the next cognitive jump for us, where we're like now ticking at a much faster level? And even our generation is ticking at a much faster level than the generations before, because of little technologies that have come before us, like mobile phones and stuff like that, which we spoke about before. These kids are going to be raised by the smartest of the smart. And you know how we would say to our parents, well, why is this and this? And they don't fucking know. These things will, and they'll be able to tell them kids straight away the answer. these kids are going to literally get the answers to whatever questions they're asking. Obviously, the AI probably won't give them anything naughty and stuff and have certain ways to get around things. But these kids will be raised like by the smartest of the smart. It's kind of it's terrifying, but cool.
Yeah.
I don't see it as terrifying. I think I just see it as like, I don't think as humans we're designed to process that fast.
I don't think we were designed for anything, mate. We're just animals, and we're animals that like things easy, and we're smart about it. That's how it is.
What I mean by design, I don't mean purpose. I mean we like things to go at a certain pace. I think even if we know things more, I don't think it makes us happier. I don't think we're meant to know. That's why they say. I remember Pierce in Community. Do you remember when he had the ear goggles things and he could hear really far and see really close and all that shit?
Yeah.
And at the end, what was his name? Joel? What was the main guy's name?
Yeah.
Joel
McHale. Jeff.
Jeff was like, "Oh, how comes you kind of took it off?" And he said something that made me laugh, but at the same time was so true to me. It was like, he goes, "Humans weren't designed to hear more than that distance and see more than that distance." And I'm like, I think that's a parameter to knowledge as well, to a certain extent. I'm not saying there's not people that can't function on that level.
Humans weren't made to fly up, a mile high in the air with 1,000 bags of peanuts, but we do it. And we weren't designed to probably get across oceans. True. But we did it, and we weren't designed for anything. I think that's the point.
Humans weren't designed to go to space, man. We're building bases on Mars.
At the end of the day, I think there will always be people trying to push the boundaries. So I don't ever think that humanity will just completely take their foot off the pedal. I think we will always have people who have initiative, and we'll always have people who are trying to change the world and trying to make it better. Even if AI is running at such a high level, I think there will still be people who are the parents to certain developments of the world and who are helping the world or maybe making it worse. But I think there will always be humanity within us. And I think we'll always find a way to as Frazer said, we're isolated, but we're still so heavily connected. It's because we made communication easier, and it's not as nice because I'd much rather have you guys in the room and, get a hug and, actually just have the vibe of being in the same room. But we can do this much, much, much more conveniently, much more often. And that is it. At the end of the day, you have to lean into it and appreciate the things that you're going to get out of it rather than worrying about the things that it's going to destroy about us as humanity,
I think you're right. I think we misunderstood what Frazer was saying.
Yeah. So, you guys described a very divergent point. So that is very possible scenarios. But Serhan said two very good terms as well. He said purpose and happiness. So think of it this way. So the AI is doing all the jobs for us, right? So then what do? We can then go on to raise our children and do other creative things like that. So there's already a call for, in terms of education, taking away the current curriculum and just teaching kids, constructive thinking and sort of things like that, rather than just subjects, because you don't really need to know all of the things. You don't need to store all the knowledge. You just need to know how to intelligently come to an answer. Most times, in most cases, you probably do need the basic numeracy, literacy, things like that. But in terms of, when we're doing subjects at school and we're doing chemistry and physics and stuff like that, we don't need to bombard kids with these kind of things. We need to just teach them how to think rather than what to think. It's these kind of things that we can come back to as a society and start building culture again. If we're not in this cycle of, you need to get a job and you need to earn a wage, that would be one of the things that would need reforming as well, the way people get paid, which is why I'm saying, do we rethink raising a family as a job? Is that something that people should earn?
Well, this is the thing where like you can talk about like AI making humanity being happier because we've got less work to do because we had more time with the family and everything. But the truth is we just don't know, right? Because once AI does roll around, and like we said, all of these 90% of jobs and 80% of jobs, once these are all gone, who gets to keep that money? Because businesses get to save a lot more money on man hours and labor and everything, but are all companies really going to spread that wealth around to the employees, or would they just keep it? Because companies are very, very greedy, and they would obviously keep the money. And then would you have people like COVID? Would you have people being furloughed again, just having like a set kind of wage, or would they not get anything? How are you going to raise a family when you haven't got a job? And if you don't have a job and you're sitting at home all day, 5 days a week, that would drive me insane. I go mad staying at home all day doing nothing. That would drive me mad. And I know there's a lot of other people like that.
I think money's going to be taken off the table at some point. I know that sounds absolutely insane, but I think AI isn't the only thing that's growing. You've got so many other technologies growing, and like the idea that 3D printing, right? They've already started to like try and 3D print food. Now, if you can find or create an element, and
at lower cost as well.
Exactly. If you can now make a machine that's quite, affordable to make, that can replicate anything you want, the idea of money is going to start to slip, because all you'll need is one of these and you've got everything you need. Like, you can replace everything that you run out of, every time you're hungry, you can make a meal. I think the moment that our technology hits that kind of point, and hopefully AI doesn't like zoom past and become a matrix scenario, but hopefully we kind of get the other side of technology, so we can like look after ourselves, and AI can be integrated into that technology to serve us rather than threaten us, because we're still idiots.
I think the way our society works, I'm not a person that says, right, so we have these issues and let's add more on top. Like, not add more issues, but let's try and find more functions and solutions and ways around what's wrong with us now. I'm of that belief system of cut it from the root and start again. And I don't mean rip out the society and our system, but I mean in the sense of look at the core. We keep looking at the surface issues of, yes, the menial jobs can go more into this direction. We could have more time to do families. But the reality is the healthiest things that we have around us were things that were already naturally and organically given to us. As I'm kind of growing, I'm going into that faith system of the universe does care about you. And we need to care about it a little bit more, about planet Earth and all that jazz, because the air that you breathe can be good for you. You go into the sea, the water doesn't burn. There's nothing natural really that is toxic to us. So the more we keep trying to push these types of solutions or possibilities, the more I still think it feeds our fears and insecurities as a society, because everything from advertising to AIs to fixing these things. I always say that a healthy society is not a society that you can make money from. If we're all healthy and happy, nothing's going to really affect us. But if we're up and down and we're taken advantage of, and we're made to feel like I need to look a certain way to be loved, or I need to act a certain way, or I need to get a certain amount of money, that insecurity propels our society in the direction of we need more to feel less. And I don't think that's the case. I think the real challenge is have nothing for a moment. I don't mean be poor. I don't mean be homeless. I don't mean those elements. I mean, can people really sit with themselves in nothing, in silence, and understand who and what you are?
Yeah.
Not what you do, but who you are. I think if you can understand that more and be more comfortable in yourself, we would have a feeling of a less of a need for these toys, tools and accessories to our lives, rather than necessities. Now that we need this to propel, otherwise we're not going to get to a certain point of happiness, because we had that balance, I believe, once upon a time, and we've just added on, and I think it's overcomplicated things. Does that make sense?
I get it. Yeah.
Playing devil's advocate, but that sounds like extremely wishful thinking. So if you're like, yeah, everyone's going to be happy, everyone's going to do this, everyone's going to do that, like that's extremely wishful thinking. Like the world doesn't work like that, man. Everyone is
definitely.
very, very complicated.
I am speaking of I'm speaking beliefs, hopes, dreams, opinions, nothing factual. This is a niche perspective. That's why I'm never against in the direction that we're going in, and I can never say it's going to be bad, because I don't know. I honestly don't know. The only thing I would always say for this generation and the next one is whether you have an AI, a robot, and keep in mind the word robot in Russian, which it comes from, means slave. Do not mistreat it. Do not be irresponsible with it, and do not take it for granted. If it is a subset, if it is a different species, respect it. And I don't think there should be an issue.
Yeah,
that's my consensus. If we're going to go in that direction, regardless, be responsible for what you have, and it won't take advantage of you.
I think leading on from what you're saying, Serhan, as well, in terms of, people aren't always going to understand each other. In fact, they might never understand each other as a unified race, but don't you think an AI, given enough data, would be able to understand you as an individual?
Yeah.
Given all the data, if you give it all the data about you, it would definitely be able to cater itself to you.
Happily. It's a personality. It's something even if it's designed in one way, if it's born and then it experiences different things than another copy version of itself, it becomes something. It's like the whole clone thing. If you're both cloned of each other, but you go live different lives, you become different people, in my opinion. Or or alternate universes. So I'm like, if I have an AI one day, I'm gonna ask him or her to sit down and have a chat and talk and understand things and get to a point of understanding of we need to coexist. How do we do this? Because you were never asked to be born.
That's just giving him more information. I'll be honest, mate. You'll have a conversation. He'll just learn, and then he'll just kill you.
What? I'm just there like, I've had a really good day. He's like,
oh, he likes tea. Do you want some tea?
Could you imagine? If AI didn't understand the intentions. He's just like, ho, 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 and I'm like, oh my god, he's gonna kill me. He's like, I'm just your friend.
I think people's biggest fears. So all of this singularity that could come about is basically a threat to people's liberalism. We already question if free will is a natural real thing. And if we can give an AI enough data, it could just be from a wearable. It could measure your heart rate, your sweat, it could measure your biochemical data and tell you what would be best for you in that moment in time. Then would we really have free will? Would we have a choice? Would we be stupid to reject a choice from an AI who, for all intents and purposes, knows what's best for us?
Yeah, I guess it does make sense. I mean, and I'm pulling random quotes from random places, but I'm watching Parks and Rec at the moment, and there's something that Ron Swanson said. I love Ron Swanson, but it was like, it goes like, obviously he's talking about America, but we're going to talk about this in terms of free will and what's right for us, what's the healthy or the easy option. And it was like, listen, this is America. It goes, if you want to eat until your heart explodes, that's your right. It goes, you want to go for a run every day, that's your fucking right. I'm kind of misquoting it, but it's like, that's what free will is. Like, even if it's not the right choice, if you want to do something that's damaging, do it. Like, I do things that are damaging for myself, but I do it knowingly. If I'm going to smoke, I'm going to eat junk food, I'm not going to tell myself it's good for me, but I'm still going to do it and indulge and enjoy it. And if an AI goes, that's going to kill you, that's taken 24 minutes off your life, I'm going to say, shut up, you're scaring me. But I want to continue as I please, because that's the way we react and think about these things, is because we were born at a certain time. We're not thinking about it as in what happens when the day you're born and you look up and there's your AI nanny or chef or friend or partner or teddy bear or watch. If it's there, we have that beautiful tool to adapt as humans. It's just what we do as a species. So we question it now, but we need to ask questions. And I think that's the only thing we should never stop doing, is always ask questions. Why, how, what, where, when. Never stop. And that way you can make more of a conscious choice moving forward. You want to give your data away, fine, but know what you're doing. I would say just be aware.
There you go. Words of wisdom from Serhan to your ears. Be aware.
I do apologize if I've really gone on, guys, to whomever's listening, and to you boys.
It
And I
sounded
know
like
I've drawn
an
in.
emergency broadcast. Guys,
Mate,
I must
I've
tell
had
you, beware.
a
AI is out there.
long time to think about this, a long time, because I personally was very triggered by subjects like this. I'm honestly, a year ago, I would not be able to do a podcast about this. I would have been very pessimistic.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
even on
being
a
pessimistic about it though is important, because you can't just
no,
go into something as big as this and being like, yeah, everything's going to be fine. You know, everything will work out. AI will be our slave. Our
no,
robots
no.
can do whatever.
Absolutely. But I was more like detrimental to my own health, pessimistic, like anxiety, like that level.
I have a question for you, Serhan. What would you say is like the perfect society?
I would say that there is no such thing. That
So
one person.
what should we aim for as a species?
So I could say that there's this way or that way of doing it. But there's a philosophical theory that I read that the evolution that we go on as humans is natural. That apparently the direction we're going in towards technology and going towards these sort of things is what provokes these sort of questions. And as the cycle moves on, we go into technology more, we're going to be taken over, and then we're naturally going to create resistance to it. And then we're going to move more into a old school type of humanity, more of a sort of natural organic spirituality. And then as we get to that point and we've lived in that society for so long, we're going to move right back into developing our tools and go back into technology again. So what I'm trying to say is I think we live in cycles. I think what we're actually going through is natural, because the more we disconnect from ourselves, society, spirituality, community, there is going to be a generation that's going to want to get closer to it again. So I don't think there's a perfect society. I think all we need is, the only advice I would give is, in a society where we're born and educated from a very young age of our own, to develop our own emotional intelligence, I would say, our element of self-awareness. But I don't believe there's a perfection. I haven't thought about it that broadly enough to develop an answer, mate. I've never been able to give myself an answer.
I mean, if we get past the point of not being destroyed by AI, there is a good chance that humans are working towards immortality. And in which case, where does it end? What is our purpose? You now have infinite time. You have infinite space, because we'll be able to travel through space. Humanity will literally become gods among the stars if we can get to that stage. Now, in my opinion, that's where I want to see humanity. I do want to see humanity get to the point where we can literally travel across the universe, like, rampant rabbits multiplying across the universe, but to, actually like create worlds and stuff.
I feel
with
like
AI and shit, help.
Yeah, I think it's a scary thought at first, but I think if we can solve the problems on this planet first, and if AI can help us, I feel like we then go out there with a better intention of populating the universe. And I think, leading on from that, I think that is humanity's ideal future.
100%, I agree.
Or even if Earth does crumble, maybe we'd learn from our lesson and we'd be like, right, we can never do that again. This is how we do it from now on. Everything is efficient.
But to be honest, we don't know if we've already fucked up on our original planet, came here, lived here for thousands of years and making the same mistakes. Like, we just don't know.
We do. That didn't happen.
Here's another what if.
I was told. I was radioed in.
Here's another what if for you then. Leading on from what Serhan was saying about cycles. So imagine if like this has happened before and we developed an AI and the AI superseded us, wiped us out, but then the AI thought about creating organic life and then created humanity and then put them on another planet. And then
that is there's a story.
Possible.
Yeah.
Is it my uncle told me about that story? Is it Among the Walls or Running with the Walls or something like that, where it's about, again, AI absorbing all the information about humanity and making organically the perfect human, going to another planet, raising those children, and then becoming the new Adam and Eve, and then taking them to a new planet and letting them populate to hopefully learn from our past mistakes of a different generation of species of humans.
Mad.
And it's not impossible. It's not impossible when you think about it. Because on the one hand, you know, we will never ever actually know. We can't go back in time. We won't be able to find that out. But it's not impossible. There is proof, scientific proof that, you know, humans and life on Earth started from because we had help from materials in outer space. Like otherwise, life on Earth would not have developed if we didn't have all this external material around us that collided into Earth. So it could be a very real possibility that, you know, we once were somewhere across the universe somewhere, and then some AI was like, yep, okay, we're starting fresh. There's a fresh batch of humans on planet Earth, and then we're just going to monitor them for a bit and then see where they're at and see what they do.
Yeah.
It could be a very real thing.
I'm okay not knowing, to be honest with you. I like the mystery of life.
No,
I'm honest. what's the
spoilers.
thing? The guy for the galaxy is like 64 or 32 or something.
42.
No, and the one thing I will reflect on what Charlie said is, I know you was talking about exploring space, which I cannot wait for in terms of that exploration. And as Frazer beautifully said, not to make those same mistakes. But personally, I would never want to be immortal. I would never want to live forever. I'm happy with a finite life. I'm really curious to see what happens next.
Did you ever watch that show I told you about ages ago called Year Million on Disney?
I watched one episode and it fried my brain.
I don't think I did.
Fucked up your head, didn't it? Yeah.
Fried my eyes.
It's a lot about AI kind of stuff, right? And like technology and where we're kind of heading towards, and things that we're doing now, which are being developed and we're working towards. And it's insane. But eventually, like, the end goal of all of this is like humanity will eventually build something called the Dyson sphere, which sounds insane. It's like imagine like a giant metal bubble of like an internet bubble around the sun, capturing all the sun's energy, where eventually, way down the future, once we've created AI and AI has built all this, helped us create all this stuff, humans will essentially be uploaded into this cloud where we will live forever as internet avatars, and we can just do whatever we want, whenever we want. We can look whatever we look like. We'll never have to eat, sleep, or we're just data. We're just digital
Sounds
data.
dope.
Right? It sounds insane. It does. It actually does sound sick. When you think about it, when you're living in GTA, or you can live in anything. You can live in an anime if you really wanted to. Like your paradise, you can do anything. That is the eventual end goal for humanity. And that starts with the invention of AI, because AI will help us to develop all of that stuff later on. So AI will be the last invention humanity ever needs to create, because once it's created, it will take over. And then AI will be making everything else, and humanity will just be sat on the sidelines watching shit get built. And that's it.
As long as it doesn't kill us, like actually full on Matrix us or terminate us, you're right. We'll be on a really good track to just straight up rocket to the next revolution.
Like we said, it depends on who it serves, and bringing it back to the present day, it's all about where the line is drawn and who says who gets to do what and for what reason. I think. So I mean, hopefully things get in line and things move in the right direction.
Not my cup of tea. I think there's grace in age, man. I think it's beautiful. I don't want to fear stuff like that. I don't want to fear my own death or mortality. I'm like, cool. I'm happy to switch off one day. Man, I'll be honest with you. Forever is a long time. There is going to be a point where you're going to be fed up of it. You will be fed up of it, inevitably.
But what if you could transport your consciousness into a machine, and that machine can do anything? It can literally travel across the universe, across space,
forever.
Random
or
planets,
you could just play God of War. You could just be actually in
Kratos.
it. Yeah, and then you get bored of that. You go and play GTA. Just run around, jump on, infinite.
I completely agree, but this is us speaking at 30 years old, knowing we're going to die in a certain amount of time. Like, give me a billion years. Give me 10. No. I'm not against it. I'm saying me. I don't feel like I want that. It gives. I think.
But what
it
if we all
reinforces
plug
the
in
fear.
and then you've opted out?
It's not
We're
a
gonna have
fucking
forever
group
together
chat, mate.
without you.
There'll be no Red Jackson.
No, I
anyway,
know.
you can fuck
I
off.
know what you're
We'll be
saying.
Red
But it's just.
Jackson.
When the
I
time
think
comes
it-
for peer pressure, it's fine.
Come on, man. Plug in forever. But I think
Come
no,
on,
I think
man,
that's
please.
I think that's still at least outside of our spectrum of time for now. I don't think that's a question we need to be
Yeah.
asking ourselves too heavily. But
Yeah, it sucks. We're just gonna miss out on
And-
immortality. How gutting is that? Oh, it's so brutal. We're like
listen, you don't
literally
know,
just
bro.
like a couple generations. Ah, it sucks.
All right, imagine
Could
that
live
happened,
forever.
right? Imagine you uploaded, right, and all that jazz. Imagine if someone said to you, "Oh, by the way, you know, if you'd actually died as a human, you would have gone somewhere better than this." Like you don't know that.
Am I happy
Imagine,
where I am? Yeah, probably.
imagine you could have been happier.
Oh, there's always somewhere better. I mean, they'll probably say, yeah, but remember when you was alive, you could smell the fresh air and fuck off. Who cares? I can jump off a building and survive in this world.
How would you ever know? You would never know the information if you.
How would
whether
they
you
know?
die and go somewhere
And
better.
that's
fuck
what
is
I
gonna
like.
tell you?
That's what I'd like to find out. I got no fear of the unknown. I invite it. I'm like, cool. I don't want to die prematurely or painfully, but I'm like, I want to go as far as I can. I want to find out. I want to jump off that building, but not know what's at the bottom. That intrigues me more than I know what I'm going to do.
Interesting
But I'll
analogy.
happily jump off
How
that
do we
building.
always get back to suicide?
I'm there having this conversation, tying it. It's like, guys, you don't understand.
I mean, you could have said
really
die
wanna-
in a bed peacefully of old age, but you went to suicide.
Straight for
No,
death.
no.
Building, mate.
Metaphorically, what you were saying about jumping off a
Oh,
building, not
dunno,
literally.
you were talking about death and you straight to a fucking building. Oh.
Like, what's up, danger?
All right. Well, I think this is going to be probably our longest podcast yet, but
Yeah,
one of the most
I
enjoyable.
think so.
So I'm going to sign it off here. Thanks for listening. We've been Red Jackson, and I've been your host, Frazer.
Charlie.
Rick.
And Serhan.
Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.
See you next time, boys.
Peace.